Welcome back to the garage. This is Token Teardown, the show where we jack crypto projects up on the lift, crawl underneath with a flashlight, and find out what's actually going on under the hood. No spin, no soft touch, no community armor. Today on the lift, Flare, ticker FLR. This one came straight from you. Viewer request. It's been on Triple X's desk for weeks. Every week somebody drops it in the comments. When are you doing Flare? Put it on the lift. It's on the lift. Now, if you've never heard of Flare, don't worry. This isn't the project flooding your timeline with memes. This is the one quietly building infrastructure, while everyone else fights over which dog coin is going to $1. Triple X pulled the white papers, the governance proposals, the audits, the on-chain data. When he finally brought it over, he said, "This one's not what most people think it is. Not a moonshot, not a ghost chain, something different." The car he handed me was a GMC Hummer EV. Now, hear me out. The Hummer EV is not trying to win a drag race. It's a 12,000-pound electric truck with 1,400 horsepower, built to go places other vehicles physically cannot reach. It hauls, it climbs, it crawls over terrain that would rip the axles off anything else on the road. But it's massive, it's heavy, and most people don't know why they need one until they're stuck somewhere nothing else can get to. That's Flare. Before we drop this on the lift, yes, we will get to price predictions. But before we tell you what this thing might be worth, we need to figure out if it's even worth hauling in your portfolio. Smash the like, hit the follow, and share this with your uncle. You know the one, the XRP to 1,000 guy. He's the one at Thanksgiving telling you market cap doesn't matter, while passing the gravy with absolute conviction. And honestly, we love him for it. He's the reason you never sold your bag, just in case. This one's for him. All right, lift it, lock it, lights on. Let's tear it down. Before we touch the tech, we always start with the same question. Who made it? Because in this garage, we don't trust the badge. We trust the people turning the wrenches. Flare was founded by Hugo Filion, Sean Rowan, and Dr. Nairi Usher. They met studying machine learning at University College London. Filion is the CEO, finance and derivatives background. Rowan is CTO, distributed systems. Usher is chief scientist, quantum computing. These aren't anonymous devs behind a cartoon avatar. These are doxed founders, academic credentials, financial engineering in their DNA. Company is registered. Flare Ecosystems Limited, British Virgin Islands. Foundation incorporated in the Netherlands. Multi-jurisdiction, common in crypto. What have they done? 7 major protocol upgrades pushed through formal governance. Multiple independent security audits from firms like CoinSpect and FYEO. A live bug bounty on Immunify paying up to $250,000 if you can break it. That's a team that's shipping, not just tweeting roadmaps. Funding, $11.3 million raised in 2021. Kinetic-led DCG and CoinFund in the round. Not infinite runway, and it's old money. So what's left in the tank is anyone's guess. The honest flag, deep engineering surface. If 2 or 3 key people walk, a lot of knowledge walks with them. Pit crew takeaway, credentialed founders, real names, real faces. A team that builds, but the shop runs lean, and this engine has a lot of moving parts. Now, what did they actually build? Because this is where Flare stops being another L1 and starts being something different. Flare is a layer 1 blockchain, its own engine, its own chassis, EVM compatible, meaning anything built for Ethereum can run here. It burns transaction fees and uses proof of stake with Snowman++ consensus. That's from the Avalanche family. Published specs show about 1.8-second block time with single slot finality. For the devs, it borrows Avalanche's multi-chain structure. C-chain for EVM execution, P-chain for staking and validator mechanics, X chain for simple transfers, though Flare's own docs note that one is currently unused. Now here's where this gets interesting. Most L1s are built to process transactions fast and cheap. That's a drag race. Flare isn't trying to win that race. Flare is built to haul data. Every smart contract on every blockchain has the same problem. It can't see outside its own chain. It can't natively verify prices, events on other chains, or anything happening in the real world. So projects bolt on oracles and bridges. And that's where the hacks happen. That's where the trust assumptions hide. That's where billions have been lost. Flare's approach: make those data and interoperability functions native to the chain itself. Bake them into the frame so they inherit the network's economic security instead of being cheap aftermarket parts bolted on in the parking lot. FTSO, the Flare Time Series Oracle, built-in sensor array. It pulls price data and time series information on-chain through a decentralized network of data providers. The upgrade path targets up to 1,000 feeds with 1 to 2 second update cadence. Most blockchains check the fuel gauge once a minute. Flare checks it every second. State Connector and Flare Data Connector, decentralized consensus about events happening on other blockchains, and even Web 2 data sources. External truth, verified on-chain. No single company deciding what's real. Flare Systems Protocol, the unifying layer that ties the Oracle and the data connector together. These aren't optional add-ons. They're bolted to the block. Core infrastructure. FAssets, the bridging system. Trust minimized, over-collateralized, designed to bring tokens from chains that don't support smart contracts into Flare's EVM environment. The flagship, FXRP. XRP, made usable in DeFi. That's the narrative. XRPFi, BTCFi, DogeFi. Take assets that have been stuck on simple transfer chains for years and put them to work. Now, the honest complication. The FAssets core vault, the system that handles bridging liquidity, relies on federated operators, multi-sig signing, and even KYC gating for certain redemption flows. Parts of this bridging system are not fully trustless. The truck goes off-road, but one of the fuel lines still needs a trusted mechanic to open the valve. For the devs, no permissionless subnet creation, no permissionless validator transactions, default validator set with limited validity, guarded rails by design. Now, 2 things that matter. First, Flare doesn't just ship straight to mainnet. They run a canary network called Songbird. Live chain, real money, real users. FAssets V1 launched on Songbird late 2024, before it ever touched mainnet. You test the truck on dirt roads before you put passengers in it. Second, the core vault, the part we just flagged as semi-centralized, they're not ignoring it. Version 1.1 redesigned the liquidity architecture, and the V2 roadmap includes trusted execution environment pathways, meaning they're actively working toward removing that trusted mechanic from the fuel line. Not there yet, but the wrench is turning. Build sheet takeaway, Flare built something genuinely different. Enshrined oracles, native data protocols, a bridging system aimed at unlocking billions in stranded assets, a canary network that proves they test before they ship, and a roadmap to fix the weak spots over time. The engineering is real, the audits are extensive, but the system is complex, partially operator dependent, and some of the heavy-duty lines still route through trusted hands. Is anyone actually loading cargo? Here's Chapter 4, Real Usage. Picks up right after is anyone actually loading cargo. 500,000 daily transactions, 860,000 active addresses, TVL around 200 million, stablecoin market cap above 100 million. Those are Flare's numbers. Now the caveat. Those come from Flare's own reporting, not an independent auditor. DeFi Llama shows stablecoins closer to 98 million. Different timestamps, different methods. Not shocking. But treat all TVL numbers as estimates, not gospel. The chain is not a ghost town. things are happening. Flare's third anniversary update reports hundreds of millions of cumulative transactions and millions of addresses, but volume tells a different story. $3 to $4 million in daily trading volume for a token with close to 800 million in market cap. That's thin. More like a highway with 2 lanes when you need 6. XRPFi, over 100 million FXRP minted, about 70% deployed into DeFi protocols like SparkDex, Kinetic, and Enosys. That's not verified by a third party, but it shows where the momentum is pointing. Institutional lane. The Core Vault audit describes agent workflows with KYC for whitelisted redemptions. This isn't built for degens. It's built for regulated money that needs a compliant on-ramp. Liquid staking. SFLR trading on Flare native dexes. Leading TVL category. Partners. Google Cloud running as a validator and data provider. Kraken with USDT Zero integration. BitGo for custody. VivoPower for an XRP treasury strategy. Those are real names. The question is always, how deep does the integration go? Logo on a slide or dependency in the stack? FlareDrops. The 36-month community distribution program ended January 30th, 2026. 24.2 billion FLR distributed. That faucet is off. Unclaimed tokens burn after 67 days. The training wheels just came off. Now we find out if this thing can ride on its own. Liquidity reality. You want to move 10 million? You're going to feel it. 50 million? You're moving the whole market. The exit door is real. It's just not very wide. Now let's pop the fuel cap. Don't let the word tokenomics scare you. It's just a fancy term for the fuel system. How much fuel exists, how fast it's burning, and whether anyone's adding more to the tank while you're trying to drive. 100 billion FLR created at Genesis. But here's the part most people miss. There is no hard cap. No max supply. Flare is inflationary forever. New tokens get minted every year. The total supply has already passed 104 billion, and it keeps growing. That's a material difference from Bitcoin, from Pi, from most projects people compare this to. There is no finish line on supply, just a factory that keeps producing. Inflation schedule. 10% year 1, 7% year 2, 5% from there on out. Calculated on available supply, not fully diluted. Where do those new tokens go? 70% to the Oracle data providers and the people who delegate to them. 20% to validators. 10% to State Connector attestation providers. Inflation isn't random here. It rewards the people keeping the data engine and the security layer running. Burns. All transaction fees get burned. Permanently destroyed. More usage, more burn, less supply, deflationary pressure. Flare also burned 2.1 billion FLR originally allocated to early backers. Real supply reduction, not just talk. But here's the thing. Burns don't automatically mean deflation. Inflation is still present. More tokens coming in than going out. And with no max cap, that never stops. The factory keeps adding parts. And unless the truck is driving enough miles, those parts pile up forever. Emissions didn't stop when FlareDrops ended. DeFi Llama still shows ongoing unlocks, incentive pool distributions, and backer unlocks through March 2026 and beyond. The subsidy era ended. The inflation did not. ATH was 5.5 cents, February 2024. Currently sitting under a penny. 83% drawdown from the top. And with supply growing every month, price has to fight gravity just to stay flat. Treasury transparency, we can see token allocations in their docs, but there's no clean public audited balance sheet showing cash, stables, or burn rate. For institutions doing diligence, that's a blocker. Is the token required? Yes, for gas. You need FLR to transact. Staking runs on FLR. Governance and Oracle delegation run on FLR. but some subsystems like FAssets collateral allow other tokens in addition to FLR. So the must-buy FLR story isn't absolute everywhere. The fuel system works, but the tank has no cap. It fills itself every month, and the burn rate hasn't caught up yet. Now, who's driving this truck? And who's actually steering? Who drives this truck? Because owning the token and steering the project are two very different things. Upgrades that require hard forks go through governance votes, real votes. FIP06 explicitly required a hard fork, and it went through the process. That's not theater. That's governance with teeth. Now the nuance. Flare excludes the foundation and VC fund from voting. Sounds good, right? Anti-capture. Insiders can't vote their own bags. But it also means governance power concentrates among circulating holders and large delegates. Better than insider control, still not purely democratic. Here's the lever most people miss. FIP07 gives the foundation 90 days after deployment to tune certain system parameters. The community votes it in, and then the foundation gets to adjust the settings after. Legitimate for stability, but it's still a privileged key under the dashboard. The state connectors, attestation providers, the entities that verify what's true on other chains, were initially selected by the foundation. Who signs truth is a governance-critical trust surface. That matters more than most people realize. Regulatory survivability, actually one of Flare's stronger cards. The KYC-gated FAssets redemption flow is institution-friendly by design. Multi-jurisdiction structure gives optionality. MiCA, BVI, Netherlands, they spread the pieces across the board. But more jurisdictions also means more complexity and potential access fragmentation. Competition, and this is the part the community doesn't love hearing. Flare fights in three arenas at once. Oracles, that's Chainlink's territory, and Chainlink isn't giving that up. Interoperability, Layer 0, Wormhole, Axelar, all want that lane. EVM L1s, every competent chain can bolt on oracles and bridges from the outside. So what's the moat? Flare's bet is that enshrined data protocols baked into the chain are harder to replicate than an app you can copy. And that's true, but the real moat isn't the code. It's liquidity, integrations, and being the default place where XRP becomes productive in DeFi. Network effects, not GitHub repos. If liquidity sticks, the moat holds. If it doesn't, competitors route around you. Now, before we hand this to Lulu, we need to check for cracks, because every truck looks good in the showroom. The question is, what happens when the road gets ugly? 80% drawdown, not hypothetical. FLR is already down 83% from its all-time high of 5.5 cents, hit around a penny. The stress test already happened. Volume collapse, daily volume sits around 3 to 4 million against an 800 million market cap. That's thin. A big exit moves the price. The exit ramp is narrow, and there's no shoulder. Incentives removed. Flare drops ended January 30th. The subsidy era is over. Staking and delegation rewards continue, but the extra distribution layer that kept people engaged for 3 years, gone. Now we find out who's here for the truck and who is here for the free gas. Prolonged bear. The most fragile part is the interoperability stack. Operators, federated signers, core vault participants. If those entities disengage during a bear, the base chain keeps producing blocks, but the cargo system degrades. Known outage, June 2025. Mainnet halted. Bug in the client software tied to an upstream avalanche dependency. Fixed. But the dent is still on the bumper. And that's not the only scar. An FYEO security review found a separate bug. Funds transferring from C-chain to X-chain would export successfully, but fail on import. Edge case. X-chain is mostly unused, but it shows how components in a complex stack can break in ways nobody anticipated. Required a protocol update to fix. The truck took a hit, got back on the road, but this is the part where Lulu pulls out the clipboard and runs the math on whether it's worth the wait. All right, we are here. Everyone's favorite part. Show me the Moo Law. Every number you've been hearing today came from the head of technical analysis in this garage, Lulu. She climbed up into this Hummer EV, which took a minute because the thing is enormous, pulled out her clipboard and said, "Big truck, how much is it actually hauling?" Here's the starting line. Total crypto market, about 2.33 trillion. FLR trading just under a penny. Market cap around 796 million. Circulating supply about 85 billion. Total supply already past 104 billion and growing every year with no cap. Current market share 0.034%. Now here's what makes this different from most teardowns. There's no max supply to calculate against. Supply grows. So every scenario has to account for the fact that the denominator, the number of tokens out there, gets bigger every year. Lulu factors that in. Now let's run it to 20 trillion. Cruise control. Market grows. Flare holds its lane. Same share. Market cap hits 6.8 billion, but supply isn't standing still. At 5% annual inflation offset by burns, circulating supply could push past 90 to 95 billion over the next few years. Token price, somewhere between 7 and 8 cents. Call it 7 to 8.5 times from here. Still solid for just keeping up with traffic, but inflation shaves the top. Traction. XRPFi takes off. FAssets become the default. Kraken deepens the integration. Institutions roll in through KYC-compatible rails. Flare gains 2 to 3 times its current share. At 2 times, 14 to 16 cents depending on supply growth. At 3 times, 21 to 24 cents. 15 to 25 times from here. That's real money, even after inflation takes its cut. Full moo. Everything clicks. Flare becomes the default infrastructure layer for cross-chain data and settlement. 5 to 10 times current share. At 5 times, 35 to 40 cents. At 10 times, 70 to 80 cents. 35 to 85 times from here, depending on how much supply has grown. That's the moonshot, with the honest asterisk that the target moves a little every year. Black Swan, market hits 20 trillion. But the XRPFi thesis never materializes. Chainlink absorbs Oracle demand. Layer 0 wins interoperability. Operators walk away. Volume stays flat. Emissions keep inflating with no cap. Supply pushes past 110, 120 billion. Burns barely make a dent. Price drifts toward half a penny or lower. The market grew 10 times. The truck sat in the lot, getting heavier every month, with no cargo. Lulu closes the clipboard and says, "This truck is built for a job most people don't understand yet. The engine is real, but the fuel tank has no cap, and it fills itself every year. If cargo shows up, the weight doesn't matter. If it doesn't, this truck just gets heavier and slower until nobody wants to drive it." Now, before Lulu takes a bow, she's got some red flags to hand out first. Red flags. No mercy. 1. Semi-centralized bridging. Core vault runs on multi-sig and operators. Direct redemptions are KYC gated. If your thesis is fully trustless bridging, parts of this system don't match. 2. Proven outage. June 2025. Block production halted. Upstream bug. Fixed. But it happened. 3. Value accrual still maturing. Fees burn, but emissions exist. Usage hasn't caught up to issuance yet. 4. Treasury transparency gap. No public audited balance sheet. No cash disclosure. No burn rate. For institutions, that's not a maybe. That's a blocker. 5. Thin liquidity. You're not exiting heavy without moving the price. Now the honest positives, because this is not a hit piece. The tech is genuinely differentiated. Enshrined oracles are not something you see on most L1s. Governance is real. Hard fork votes, formal proposals, foundation excluded from voting. Google Cloud, Kraken, BitGo, not shallow logos. Over 100 million FXRP minted shows early traction. FlareDrop's ending means we get to see what this truck does on its own fuel. Bug bounty with real payouts shows they want people poking at the engine. This is a team with receipts. The question is whether the world needs what they built. Now, before you go out and sell the kids' college fund, none of this is financial advice, not investment advice, not trading advice. This is education, analysis, and one very opinionated garage. And just in case you're new here, all those numbers today, they came from Lulu, head of technical analysis. She is incredible at what she does. But Lulu is a pig, a real one. 4 hooves, a tail, a snout. She climbed up into that Hummer, could barely see over the steering wheel, pulled out her clipboard, ran every scenario, then tried to eat the dashboard. Turns out Hummers are not edible, even for pigs. So if you're out here taking financial advice from a pig on the internet, that one's on you. Technology 8.0, real L1 stack, genuinely differentiated enshrined data. Songbird Canary Network shows discipline, but complexity and off-chain dependencies widen the failure surface. Team 7.5, doxed, credentialed, they ship. But the shop runs lean for a build this deep. Tokenomics 6.5, no max supply cap, inflationary forever. FlareDrop's ending helped. Unclaimed drops burn after 67 days, which is smart. But emissions continue with no ceiling. Value capture depends entirely on usage outpacing an ever-growing supply. Treasury 6.5, allocation tables exist. Audited runway does not. Real usage 7.5, 500,000 daily transactions, 100 million FXRP minted, but volumes are mid-tier and some activity may be incentive-shaped. Business model 7.0, Oracle fees, gas burns, staking infrastructure, XRPFi positioning, no audited revenue proof yet. Moat 7.0, XRPFi default venue plus integrated data rails. Core Vault V2 TEE pathway shows evolution. Competitors can route around you if liquidity doesn't stick. Governance 7.2, real votes, hard forks through proposals, but privileged tuning windows and operator-mediated systems exist. Community 6.5, engaged but smaller. XRP-adjacent audience gives growth potential. Not yet a self-sustaining flywheel. Regulatory 6.5, multi-jurisdiction, KYC-gated flows, institution-friendly, but adds complexity. Cycle resilience 7.0. Post-FlareDrop's era is the real test. Deep bear stresses operator participation. Alpha potential 7.8. If XRPFi becomes a major on-chain yield market, upside is real. If the narrative cools, FLR needs fee capture to stand alone. Total garage score 7.1 out of 10. Tuned and worth watching. Not the car most people are looking for. Too big for a parking garage, too heavy for a Sunday cruise. Most people walk right past it. But if cross-chain data becomes critical infrastructure, if XRPFi becomes a real market, if institutions need KYC-compatible rails to move real value across chains, this is the truck that already built the roads. The tech is real. The team ships. 100 million FXRP minted is early traction, not a white paper promise. Songbird proves they test before they ship, and the Core Vault roadmap shows they're working on the weak spots. But the liquidity is thin. The treasury is opaque. Supply grows forever with no cap. And the truck already has 2 dents on the bumper from a mainnet outage and a chain transfer bug. 7.1, tuned and worth watching. The bet isn't whether the truck runs. It does. The bet is whether anyone shows up with enough cargo to justify the size of this machine. Smash the like, hit the follow, and oh, tell your uncle, we are definitely stacking more XRP. He's on to something. You got a project you want on the lift? Leave it in the comments. We read them all. Check us out, gurucryptogarage.guru. Until next time, let it rip.